Hi, everyone.
Hi everyone.
We are the UCLA girls. I'm
Yeah,
Brenda,
I'm Mike Way.
and today we want to share our experience at UCLA with all of you.
Okay, so
Um,
let's go to the first question. First question, introduction. When did you attend UCLA, your major, and what are you doing now?
okay, so I'll start and then you can go, Mike Way. But so I graduated from UCLA in December 2016. I studied business economics, and right now I work in private equity as an associate.
So for me, I graduated June 2016. I graduated with a major in molecular, cellular, and developmental biology. And right now I'm finishing up medical school. I'm on my third year. I'm starting fourth year very soon.
Yeah, so we've been out of college for 5, almost 6 years.
Oh my God, it's been a while.
Yeah, so do you feel like it matters where you graduate college, Mike Way, based on your
Honestly,
field?
on my field, you can literally graduate from anywhere and still go to medical school. What matters is that you have the grades and all the class requirements and the exam score to get in. It literally doesn't matter.
Do you feel
Although
like
it
it's
looks
easier?
good to say that you graduate from UCLA though.
Does it help because maybe some schools don't have certain programs? Like if it's like Arizona State, for instance, like if they don't have the certain research programs, is that harder?
I don't even think you actually need research to get into medical school. Like you literally just need like volunteering experience, like interest for medicine and just exam scores and personal statement to get in. So I feel like it's not necessary for my field. What about yours?
I feel like it does because I think finance is still very traditional. So they kind of still look at the pedigree. And so, and also I think, recruiting can be kind of difficult. So they'll focus on like 10 schools instead of like having people apply from everywhere as medical school works.
Mhm.
So like when you're in a company, they're actively going out to recruit students. They're not going to try to be like recruiting students from all over the world. Although they probably get better candidates if they did. I think they focus their like effort and time on like, okay, we know that there are really good kids that come from these schools because their program focuses on like something similar to the job.
Oh, I didn't know that. It's so
Yeah,
different.
yeah, it's completely different. So I think it does help. But then again, it's kind of like difficult for students because I don't think a lot of students come in knowing that they want to do X or Y or Z. It's like they come in being like, oh, I have a general idea of what I want to do, but that can still change.
So do you think it's like the end of the world if you end up going to like a school that's not well known and then you can't get into the job that you want?
I don't think it's the end of the world, but I think it makes it like an uphill battle. You have to like network a lot harder. You got to meet people, know people. But I think if you're good, you're good. It's just you have to work harder than someone who went to Harvard and like people automatically assume the kid is really smart. They put like I think like in finance, people put these like ideals of like, oh, you went to a certain school, you're smarter, you're more polished, you're more X, Y, and Z. So it's you just have to like fight against that idea because they'll think that if you went to a different school that's not ranked, they'll be like, oh, you didn't try hard in high school, you didn't know what you want to do. So, you just have to work against all those like negative stereotypes that they potentially might have.
That's very interesting.
Yeah. So do you think if you could choose it over, would you go to like a really easy school that would position you better for medical school?
Well, I thought about it countless times, and yes, although there's other schools who are easier than UCLA, because UCLA, if I mean, you attended. Do you think the classes are more like theoretical? Like it's like all about critical thinking,
Yeah.
and some schools we don't have to. They don't have the research opportunity. The professors who are like really focused on research, and because they focus on research, they really care about how you think. So the classes are designed to help you think. It's not like the classes aren't designed to help you learn how to memorize a bunch of formulas and a bunch of facts. It's teach you how to think. So one disadvantage is that because I went to a school like UCLA that's like heavy on research, I learned how to be a critical thinker, but I never learned to sit down and literally grind out time and memorize and learn and just learn the information like through reading. It's more like I look at I mean, most of my exams are like design an experiment. How would you like locate this gene on this specific like organism. So it's like very different. What about you, Brenda? What do you think?
Yeah, I totally agree with the whole idea that like our experience at a school like UCLA is very based on like thinking. So
Yeah.
that was really hard because I think investment banking, they start during the interviews, it's very technical. So they'll ask you like, how do you do this? And we don't learn like actually what we do on the job in class. So a lot of it I had to study outside of my actual like studies. Where I feel like there's certain schools out there like NYU, they'll teach you exactly what you would do in investment banking. And so you actually like practice for the interview in your class.
Mhm.
So I feel like it does give you a leg up. I think that like it is good to have a very theoretical experience, but I think sometimes in like the real world, it's kind of
Maybe it's
also
better.
good to have like applicable experience as well, where you actually do what you need to do and get practice on that.
Like for my major, I can fulfill some of my graduation requirement just by just being in a research lab and studying organism. Like much of my time is like pipetting, like making chemicals and stuff. But that's like really hands-on stuff. But it's not really something I can take with me for medical school because medical school isn't about research in a lab. I mean, it kind of it's like a different type of learning, and I feel like in a way I'm very happy that I got that experience because now I'm in medical school where it's all like rote memorization, repetition, repetition, repetition. At least there's a point of my life where I was able to like study science in a different way.
So you feel like to be a successful doctor, do you think the studying and the memorization is more important, or like the thinking and like the theory behind how to think is more important?
Okay, so I'm still a medical student, but I learned that whatever you learn in the books, it will help you recognize things, but it doesn't click until you are on the job. Like when you start rotation, when you start become a doctor, when you see in real life, just like you, right? In school, you learn about all these formulas and all these calculations, but in real life, it's like applying it. When do you know when to apply that formula? It's
Yeah,
not
I
like,
guess, yeah. When you get practice and exposure, you figure out what works.
yeah,
It's kind of funny because I was thinking about that. We learned this thing called Black-Scholes like option pricing model.
yeah,
And we have it in one of our models to like basically a price adjust the risk for investment, but no one understands like how it works actually. They're like, oh, okay, like we understand the theory behind it, but no one knows the math. It's like some formula we took off like another thing and we put it in and we're like, all right, we will trust this. We got this from a professional.
yeah.
And I feel like I don't know, finance is very different. Like a lot of the things I learned, we don't really use it. Like that, maybe accounting we use it for the economic theory. Like it's good to know, but in real life we don't really apply as much. So I don't know, it's kind of
Like
interesting.
that's why like that's the benefit of being in a research school. Like you learn the deeper stuff. And then
Yeah,
in life, you just apply it, and you have no idea how it works. I mean, maybe at some point you knew, but now it's been so long, just it's just there.
yeah. That's funny. I feel like that's hilarious that we kind of talk about that. But do you have any advice for like picking a major, or like do you think the major really matters, or when does it start mattering? Maybe.
I think for medical school, I going in, I thought, okay, it depends. It does matter, and it also does not matter. You can you can be a music major, but to take all your like math, biology, science, physics, English classes, and then still get into medical school. Or you can learn just be a bio major and just finish your requirement that way. I don't think it matters what major you want to go into medical school, but it's more like if you are a music major, it means that you have to work harder because you're basically juggling two different things versus someone who's a bio major. They literally go, your whole life is bio, and then you go to medical school. Medical school.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. I feel the same way. Like, I think people do like put a preference to certain majors because they're like, oh, well, if you did, a finance major, you probably have background in finance. But if it comes down to the interview and you're a music major, but you answer all the questions during the interview well, I don't think it would really matter. So it's like, it helps you get like the foot in the door for the interview. But once you're in the room, it's really about like who you are and like how well you, sell yourself.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I
I
agree.
think in general, you should choose a major you're like actually interested in, feel like
Just
you could do well in.
so I think that if I have kids one day and they want to like do a music major, but they also want to be a doctor, I'll be like, go for it. I mean, just do it. Just take both classes if you have to. I
Yeah.
think you should just do what you want to do because in the end, everything will work out.
Yeah. I like that. That's very open-minded. How do you feel like real life is different from college life?
Well, college is like, do you remember we were like just living in a bubble? We have a little community. Like, we don't really have real life stressors. Like, everything is already like in a circle. Like, I feel like if you're a student, you never really have to deal with real life stress and real life people. Because in school, the only stress that we have is grades, occasionally the roommate issues, or friends, or just other stuff. But in real life, you are actually there's more people you're interacting with, and I feel like the more people you interact with, like the more difficult it is. It's like real people and it's like real life situation. I don't know how to explain it. I just know that in real life it's really hard.
That's interesting. I feel like in college, it's stressful in a different way. It's not really like what you're dealing with. It's more the feeling like you don't know what's going to happen with your life.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I don't know for you, do you feel this way? Because I felt like for me, I was like, well, I need to try really hard and get good grades and do this XYZ, because if I don't, I could end up being jobless and like not have a job after college and like don't know what I'm doing my life. But like now in my life, I'm like, oh, well, if I, get fired or something happens, I know I can still find a different job because I've done it once before. It's going to be difficult, but like I can kind of transition. I guess I feel like I'm in a different transition period because I don't have kids with that
I
responsibility and I have money saved up.
so now let's talk about this way. Am I actually in real life? Because I'm still a student. I have glimpse of real life. Like when I do my rotation, I have glimpse of real life, but it's not really real life for me. I'm not responsible. I mean, I have responsibility, but I'm not liable. There's a lot of things I can fall back on. Unlike you, who have a paying job and actually like job responsibilities, you is more weight. But because you're like financially independent now, you can take care of yourself. Like you know that you can always find another job. For
Yeah.
me, I'm like, if I leave medical school, what do I do after that? It's like it's different. Like
Yeah.
you have I feel like you have more options in life. Like once you become an established adult, you'd be like, okay, I want to be a stay at home and just do uh entrepreneurship, or I want to work and travel the world, or I just want a normal desk job. But when you're in school, you only have one thing is to study and to learn.
Yeah.
And that's
So, yeah. So what you're saying is like basically an extension of what I'm saying, because you're still continuing that stress of school, because like you
yeah.
still like don't know if you will become a doctor. Like you still have to work for it, and that's still that stress all the time.
Yeah.
And then you don't have the money to fall back on. You can't really leave your job because you have all these like other things like holding you back. Whereas like
Mhm.
for me, I've kind of like went past that, and like for me, like I feel very lucky because I do have a job that pays me enough where I'm like, if I really need to leave my job, I have some fallback money. So I guess it's like real life really depends on where you are at, but if you kind of continue with your
Well,
like
you're also very like a special case where, but because there's people who do have a job, but their job might not pay so well, so they have to stay at the job even though they hate it. So it's like there's a lot of gray zone, but just for our situation specifically, I'm still a student. I feel like I'm tied to this job as a student, and the only thing I can do is move forward. While you, I feel like at a stage where you're like comfortable with yourself, comfortable with your abilities, comfortable with your finances, you can literally do anything you want.
That's true. I like that. We've like started to establish an understanding. Okay, so last question. What's something you wish you'd known in college?
Um, I wish I knew there's a lot more parties going in the background.
Yeah.
I feel like in college, you really are who you surround yourself with. And before like I started hanging out with you, once you started UCLA, my life was like my group was basically people who are studious and their life is study. So I didn't know that there's actually other things in college then. I mean, I know it exists, but I don't know where to find them.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's actually kind of I wish I knew it earlier because it's kind of fun because you only get to go to college once. And like now when you go to the bars or go party with your friends, it's so awkward because you're hanging out with these 18-year-olds.
Oh my God. That's so funny you say that because I think about that too, where I'm like, so I had a, in a long-term relationship when I was in college, but like partying when you're younger and finding a significant other is so much easier because like now when we go to